In this episode, I'm going to shuffle off to Buffalo for a visit with one of my oldest friends in the world. Dave Johnson is the brewer and co-owner of Rusty Nickel Brewing in West Seneca, New York. We follow his path from the New York City suburbs to brewing up beer in the land of wings and beef on weck. And how this farm brewery is managing the COVID landscape and fighting for the restaurateurs of Erie County. Welcome to No Pants During the Pandemic. Hi, I'm Kevin Brooks, and this is No Pants During the Pandemic. Today I'll be speaking with an old friend, Dave Johnson from the Rusty Nickel Brewing Company in West Seneca, New York. Hey Dave, how you doing?
Hey Kev, long time no see.
Yeah. For those out there, Dave and I have known each other for 40 years. Some could say 40 years too long, but 40 years nonetheless.
I got stories. I got pictures.
Of what, 40 years?
Yeah, you.
Well, yeah, you too. Back when you had hair.
I know.
I guess, Dave, how did you get into a beer?
My mom might hear this, so I'll try to behave. I don't know. I remember being a lot younger and not really caring for beer. And I don't know when it switched. I think you helped me. Whitbread might have done it. And then I remember going to college, kind of having that same kind of desire to find some of that better stuff. We called them import beer at the time. We didn't necessarily call it craft or micro. But I knew I liked it, and I knew it was more expensive, and I knew I couldn't afford it. And then when I was old enough, I think I had bought some homebrew kits. I think you did as well. Without even knowing, we both started roughly around 1994 homebrewing, and then called each other to talk about it, and was like, "You're doing it, I'm doing it." Yeah, exactly. My mom helped me with my first batch, and she had a good time making it. We destroyed the kitchen. But we had a good time making it. It was fun. The cats got into the dry malt, and it was all in their fur. So, but ever since then, it's been a good time. My first batch, the brew went well. It was the bottling that was an utter mess. Luckily, we lived in a New York City apartment, and the floor slanted, but it actually slanted in 4 different directions, so it all puddled in the middle, so it was a pretty easy cleanup. Maybe it was by design. As I said, you and I both started homebrewing roughly the same time, and then drinking more and more different varying styles of beers. Flash forward from 1994 to almost to around 2010. You're homebrewing a lot more. I switched gears from television to importing beer, and then you call and tell me you're opening the Rusty Nickel. How do you go from, basically engineering, which I know you're still an engineer, but from engineering to opening up your own brew pub? My wife Cheryl and I ended up making enough beer that I ended up giving most of it away. We would do a party every year in October, and we called it Sprocktoberfest. That comes from my homebrew beer name, which was Davy Sprockets. That nickname, Davy Sprockets, comes from when I used to mountain bike race. Every year we would go through hundreds of gallons at this party. I would make all different kinds of stuff every year, and I enjoyed making it, and I enjoyed drinking it. I actually enjoyed making it more than I enjoyed drinking it. But I enjoyed watching people enjoy drinking it. And I found that was very fulfilling to me. So I ended up kind of toying the idea around. And my wife, Cheryl, was very, accommodating. She's like, well, why don't you look into opening a brewery? So right around the same time we were toying around with that idea, New York State was contemplating the farm brewery bill. It's a bill that the legislation put forward that allows a less stringency and a little lower operating costs for brewers who open a brewery using local ingredients, all New York State grown. Back then, I was looking at doing a brewery right here in my house. I was either going to do it as attached to the house, or I was going to build a metal pole barn. I have 20 acres, so it wouldn't have been too much of a stretch to build a pole barn and put a brewery on it. I am thankful that never came to be, because I never imagined that it would be as popular as it is. I ended up meeting my now current business partner, Jason, who wanted to open up a brewery with a bunch of friends, but didn't know how to brew. So I, at an engineering firm, a different engineering firm than Jay worked at, worked with another guy who I was teaching how to homebrew, and he was friends with Jason, and Jason wanted him to be the brewer. And he told Jason, I can't be a brewer, I'm just learning it myself, but I know the guy you need to talk to, which was me. And everything clicked, everything meshed, and we decided to do it. So that was end of 2012. And 2013, we formed the LLC, which became Rusty Nickel Brewing Company. 2015, after finding a location and all of that, we opened our doors, and we've been open ever since and growing rather steadily since.
Where's the name Rusty Nickel come from?
The business was formed with a bunch of engineers. Buffalo is considered the Nickel City. That's its nickname, one of its nicknames, because it was on the nickel, the Buffalo nickel. Hence, our logo looks somewhat like a Buffalo nickel. We are also a Rust Belt city, much like many of those going along the Great Lakes. Nickel is a metal, obviously. The short of it is the shining star in the Rust Belt city.
And you guys have a symbiotic relationship with Ebenezer's Ale House in West Seneca?
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique situation. We call it a campus because, so they own both buildings, at least for now. We are purchasing the building, but they own the building in the front. There's a huge parking lot that we share between us, and then we're the building in the back. Right before we moved in, it was a collection agency, and before that it was a dance studio. And behind it was a swamp and a huge embankment, and then Main Street in West Seneca. Right now, if you were to look at our website and look at our back patio, what was once a swamp is now the most successful beer garden patio in Western New York.
And you have a pretty good relationship. Do they still pour some of your beer?
Actually, it's required in our lease agreement that they purchase beer from us, so it's kind of a unique situation. They keep, at a minimum, 2 of our beers on tap at any given time because we're an evening-only business, and they are a full-service business. They're open for lunch, so they serve our beer when we are not open. So people can get our beer from us, either from us or from them, at almost any time.
Excellent. And what's the physical place like?
Basically, it's a rectangular building. It was a real basic building. We basically gutted it. We came in there, we stripped it down to the walls. Half of the building is brewery and brewery-related manufacturing. And then we've got the tasting room side of the building, which is the left side, which has obviously the bar. And then all around the back 2 sides is the back patio, which holds hundreds of people. This is what we thought. This is how naive we were. We thought that when we opened, we put a little tiny serving bar between the manufacturing side and the serving side. And we figured while people were coming in, they would maybe just have a beer and then they'd taste it and then they'd go, so we could make beer. The very first day, we had thousands of people there, and we couldn't keep up. So we quickly had to hurry and get some employees. We didn't have any.
When you guys opened, it was right around when the taproom phenomena was really taking off. It's not like there weren't tap rooms before that, but I don't know, the whole concept of them just seemed to just take over the entire industry at that point.
Yeah, so we quickly changed our business model. We were going to do distribution right out of the gate. Once we saw the retail side of things, we quickly switched over to basically a retail-only operation.
In the back of your the brew pub, it's a pretty small kitchen. You guys just do some simple stuff, and then you allow food in.
We only allow food in from the Ebenezer Ale House. And yeah, we have the finger food. Again, back to the farm brewery bill, we are required to have food that you can eat with your fingers, not utensil food per se.
So you have to eat it with the fingers?
You have to provide that type of food. So basically, really not linguine is really what they are basically getting at.
That's weird. If it was the opposite where you were required to use utensils, that seems like a rule that would be in place, not that you were required to not use utensils.
They want it to be a tasting room.
Got it.
So that's kind of the thing. We opened originally with pretzels, bags of pretzels, handfuls of pretzels, whatever. That suffices.
With the farmhouse brewery status you said you had to have 20% local ingredients. Where do you get it? That's easier said than done.
It is, or I'd say it was. I mean, that's why they ramp up the different levels. So it's 20% when we started, ramped up to 60. I think it was last year. And then it's up to 90% in 2024. I think the legislation will get changed by 2024. They'll probably keep it at 60. But in that time, several malt houses have popped up in the area. We happen to live on the 42nd parallel, just happens to be really perfect growing regions for barley and hops. I was on the podcast yesterday with a barley breeder from Cornell University, and they were in the process of developing a New York State strain of barley that they just named Excelsior Gold. It's coming out real soon. We'll be using it. That is a 100% New York State developed, grown, and malted ingredient. So we'll be using it. We're excited about it. High yield, good diastatic power, good flavor, all the things we want. We work with New York Craft Malt and Niagara Craft Malt. Bob Johnson, who is the maltster for Niagara Craft Malt, I have him on speed dial, essentially. He developed a honey malt for us that is actually in our Slice of Havens, that is just his, that he developed for us. And he custom tweaked the color, the profile, and everything just for us. So that's one of the nice things about being a farm brewery and working with local is I get to work with the guy who makes my malt.
That's great.
Our hope is, and it's everyone's kind of hope is, that New York State, because of this plan that they've put into place, develops eventually a New York State regional specific style. No one knows what it is yet, but it's setting up to head that way. We want to be on the forefront of that. We're going to keep tinkering until we find it, and we will find it. It's one thing, you have to discover it. You have to invent it. It's not there yet. We will. One of us will. If it's not me, it'll be somebody else, but I'm hoping it's me.
How big is the brew house?
The brew house is 10 barrel, and we've just recently got 2 20-barrel fermenters, so we've increased capacity quite a bit.
Now, your brew kit has a familial connection, I guess would be the best way to put it.
The equipment that we are using, that we're still using most of, came from Appalachian Brewing Company, Gettysburg. Artie Tafoya, one of the owners of Appalachian Brewing Company, is my cousin Carrie's husband. He cut us a deal on that, and during the largest snowstorm that West New York has had since 1977, which was 7 feet of snow, we went down that day and got the equipment.
So in some ways, you were actually better off being down there since, we didn't have 7 feet of snow in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it was great, but here's me on the phone, talking to freight companies saying, okay, I need you to bring a brew kettle, a mash tun, and 2 fermenters to Buffalo. And he said, Buffalo? Haven't you been watching the news? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm watching the news. I know, but you'll be fine.
I don't need to watch the news. I can look out the window.
Yeah, I know exactly what's going on. But we tried to explain to them that 7 feet of snow was going to be gone in 2 days, and it was. They know how to handle it around here, so it doesn't worry us too much. It's funny because right now we can only dine outdoors, so our outdoor patio is full in the middle of winter in Buffalo. Who'd have thunk?
You have outdoor heaters and whatnot out there now?
We do. We have 2 50-foot long tube heaters along our patio length. They work all right. I mean, if it's in the 30s, it's somewhat comfortable. I mean, if it was in the 15s, 20s, I don't know if I'd want to be out there. But
what type of clientele are you getting at the pub?
We get regular Joes in there. We kind of get a little bit of everything. We do track our demographics and all that, and I think we get the regular demographic, but then I think we get some of the older demographic maybe than some of the other places around. We don't go super IPA crazy. We do make them, but it's not what defines us, whereas some of the places it does. And the older clientele seems to appreciate that a little bit. We keep almost 20 beers on tap at any given time, so there's a pretty good selection for just about anybody.
But you do have a few core beers. What are you want to walk through some of those for me?
We have certain ones that our customers have grown to expect. Our biggest seller, our biggest flagship, is one called Slice of Havens. My business partner, his name is Jason Haven. You might recognize that from the name Slice of Havens. He wanted to learn how to brew when we opened, so he was knowledgeable on all fronts of the business. And he said to me, I really want to make like a cream ale, but I want it to be like a creamsicle. Can you make me a recipe for that? And this was back before the fruit craze and all that stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I said, that's stupid. I'm not doing that. And he was all dejected. He kind of was like, oh, all right, Well, it stuck in my brain all night. The next day, I'm sitting there, and on paper, I designed that beer. But I designed it to be essentially an imperial cream ale. At that point, we worked now at the same engineering firm. I took the recipe and I had written it all down, and I came into his office and I slammed it down on his desk, and I go, here's your stupid cream ale recipe. Here's your creamsicle. But I said, I'm not brewing it, you're brewing it. And he goes, okay. We waited until it was done, a few weeks later, and we tasted it. And wouldn't you know it, it's freaking delicious. When we decided we were going to make that one of our beers we would open with. And I was going to only do it maybe once, maybe twice a year. it ended up being our top seller. And he showed me the stats in the paper, and you see the charts, and it's just going straight up.
Friggin' engineers.
Yeah, he's like, well, you have to brew this year round. I'm like, I'm not brewing it year round. It's too hard. It's a lot of work. It's expensive. It's all this stuff. And he goes, he showed me the stats. I'm like, okay.
What I remember about it, it's been whatever, a year and a half since I've had it. Yes, it's 9%, and yes, it is a sweet beer, but it's not over the top sweet. It's not cloying. It's a lot drier than I think you would expect, and balanced out really well.
Yeah. Some of the other beers that we keep on regular tap there is Ms. Brown's Porter. That is a traditional porter, like a London porter, if you will. That very familiar taste that you would expect if you went to England. We were able to get a lot of that flavor from New York State Willamette, which is similar to Fuggles. I just like saying Fuggles. I like saying Fuggles.
I know you do.
It's a relatively light beer. It's under 5%. You can hold it up to the light. You can see through it. It's not like a super dark porter. Super easy drinkable. And we usually make a cream ale, just a basic cream ale with no adjuncts. There's no corn, no rice. It's just pale ale and cluster, which is an old New York State hop. We don't have that on right now. We've actually swapped it out for our Pilsner, which will probably end up taking its place.
Which is sad because, to me, cream ale and upstate or western New York kind of go together.
Yeah, we did it as an homage to Genesee, who really kind of developed the style back when they were doing the lager revolution. And we have a milk stout recipe that we love, a milk stout base recipe. It's comparable to Left Hand, I'd say. It tastes similar to that. And we make a chocolate milk stout with that. We make a mocha coffee milk stout with that. One of the ones that we took a silver medal for also was our chai tea milk stout, which uses black tea and chai spices and a little bit of vanilla. People really, really like that. Super easy drinkable, kind of just right. IPA, we have our Ebenezer IPA we keep on tap. We are going to be switching that out as our base IPA because basically tastes have changed since when we released that. So ours is heading in the more New England direction. We're working on some more. There'll be some new ones coming out. We've got some experimental IPAs coming up soon. We have seasonal staples. We do a Belgian double twice a year that uses, instead of Belgian candy sugar, it uses coconut palm sugar. A little bit of a nuttier taste for a double. It's kind of a unique take on it. I like it.
Do you get the coconut flavor from it?
That's a lot of people's misconception. Coconut palm sugar is not from the coconut. It's from the tree.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I usually, instead of saying coconut sugar, I say coconut palm sugar, because the coconut palm tree is where it comes from. So like when you take a maple tree and you get maple syrup from it, this is from the tree, just like that. It's the sugar derived from the sap of the tree.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's got a neat flavor. It's a bit nutty.
It's a bit nutty.
It is.
Too bad I can't show that scene to go along with it.
You can slide that in there.
One of the things that's most popular at the brew pub isn't a beer. You guys, your Bloody Marys have actually done quite well, if I remember correctly.
So there's a huge Bloody Mary competition here in Buffalo, but we win it all the time. The unique thing with our Bloody Mary is it actually has beer in it. Our award-winning Bloody Mary has one of our staple beers, which is Ms. Brown's Porter, but it blends right in because a little less bitterness, so it's nice. I did a cider this year for the first time commercially.
Yeah?
And we also did hard seltzer.
I knew you did the hard seltzer.
We split the cider batch in half. We made one a spiced cider, almost like a mulled cider, and we made a regular hard cider. And then we've released a new seltzer series we call Drift. And there's 2 out right now. There's one more coming, but there's a blackberry lime and a guava tangerine out right now, and they're delicious. There were certain parameters we wanted to hit. We wanted to hit under 4%. We ended up at 3.9. We're on the money. We wanted to be at or under 100 calories. We're about there.
You're virtually gluten-free only because of the equipment is gluten used.
Yeah, it's straight dextrose, regular fermentation. So our first round of it was pretty good. We know how to make it even better for the next round.
Cool. So business is hopping, and at the beginning of 2020, you open a second location.
The farm brewery license allows you to have what they call 5 branch offices. I know that sounds weird for a brewery to have a branch office, but that's what they call it. The West Seneca location is the brewery itself. We also opened up in downtown Buffalo, because West Seneca is a suburb of Buffalo. We opened up our city location.
I guess I'll turn the conversation here with basically current events, current being the last 11 months.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, yeah, good time.
On paper, the second location was a really great move, but unfortunately, things haven't turned out as expected.
We had opened for 2 months. We're seeing really good increases. Sales were just climbing, and we're doing really well. And then COVID hit and really took the wind out of everybody's sails, and everyone left downtown. There is nobody downtown Buffalo right now. There's some drone videos around on YouTube of Buffalo in the middle of the pandemic. It looks like a ghost town. Middle of the day, during a work day, streets are empty, tumbleweeds going down the street, nothing.
Buffalo in general, the downtown's got to be rough because I'm sure certain days, certain weeks, the whole area is dead pre-COVID.
Yeah, I mean Buffalo was in the heavy part of a pretty substantial resurgence. Right now, there's 40 breweries in this vicinity, and when we opened up, there was about 5. So I mean, they've really blossomed, and there's a really tight community here on it. But the city itself was really having some vibrancy and some buzz, and it really took a slap when the COVID hit.
And what'd you do with the Buffalo location?
With the restrictions that were in place, we couldn't have enough people in the building to even cover a bartender. We ended up closing it. Our landlord agreed to take half rent instead of full rent while we were shut down. Also, in the middle of that, all the BLM protests were going on in Buffalo. We made national news, and with some of the police that pushed somebody down out there, we were right there. We had windows busted up, and a lot of the businesses downtown Buffalo got all busted up.
You guys are a relatively small place. How does a small company, deal with that?
The nice part about being small is you can make decisions and implement them quickly. I think that was our saving grace. We did end up either laying off or furloughing pretty much all of our employees. I mean, that was an awful day. I mean, there was tears, and it was bad. I don't want to ever relive that. I know me and other business owners felt the same way. We closed down, I think the day before St. Patty's Day. Now, I don't know if you know, but St. Patty's Day in Buffalo is the second biggest one in the country. It's huge. We normally have 3,000 people going through our doors that day. One day. We had all of our tanks full, kegged, ready to go for St. Patty's Day, and it was all called off. We had all the beer, nobody there to sell it, and nobody to buy it. We pivoted into immediately, we got crowler machines. Crowlers are the canned growlers, and we went into curbside pickup immediately. We went into home delivery. We were delivering all over the county. We kept our customers happy, and we were able to, we emptied all those tanks. We did. Being able to move and do that stuff quickly helped. We did get some of the PPP money, which helped us with some of the equipment needed to abide by the new regulations and to help pay for some of the employees and things like that we had to lay off. So it did work out for us. It's not where any of us want to be, but we made it through, and we made it through relatively unscathed.
So you get through the winter and weather improves. Now, were you able to open back up over the warmer months?
Yeah, so that was part of the impetus for getting the patio really fleshed out. We had a patio. It was nice. But since then, it's expanded immensely. So we've got a hybrid stage that we built into the hillside that can accommodate several tables for people. It also folds down so it can be a bandstand back when we can have live music again. I don't know when that's going to be. People can spread out, be outside, still enjoy the place, and feel relatively safe. I'd feel safer there than going just about anywhere else, honestly.
So, business has actually been solid at the pub outside in the warmer months. But, I'm assuming it'll slow down when we get into winter proper there in Buffalo.
For Western New York, this winter has been unbelievably mild. Of all the things that could have happened in our favor, that was it. Next week, with the polar vortex coming in, we can probably kiss that goodbye. I can't picture anyone who's going to be out there in 70-mile-an-hour winds and negative 20-degree temperature. Even the diehard Buffalonians, I don't think they're going out there.
So how do you keep people interested in the Rusty Nickel, especially once it's too cold for people to be sitting outside at the beer garden?
We are doing a bunch of releases. We've been working on stuff for a while. And a lot of people have been doing that during COVID. It just keeps people's interest up. You have to bring people to you to come pick up stuff because you can't have indoor. So you got to generate their interest enough so they got to come by and pick up a growler, crowler, whatever they're going to pick up from. Everyone's trying to just keep things moving. The nice thing about the pandemic gave us a little bit of breathing room to kind of play with some stuff a little bit. Since you ended up not selling the volume of beer that you used to, you could sell more variety of beer than you used to. So I know us and a lot of other breweries, they would end up brewing a big batch because their system is sized for a bigger batch and then splitting it. So we have several 3-barrel bright tanks, so we can split things off. You could make a wheat beer, you can make a wheat-based beer, and you could make, like a blueberry wheat. You could make a pomegranate wheat. You could do 3 different wheat beers and have 3 different beers on the same batch. So that gave your board, oh, look, they got 3 different wheat beers. I want to try that blueberry one. Tomorrow I'll come back and get the apricot one. That seemed to work for most breweries during the pandemic. And then before Christmas, we actually turned our tasting room into a boutique shop. Our business manager, Katie, she scrambled to get a lot of merchandise in, Rusty Nickel merchandise. It looked like a 5 and dime Christmas store from 1920. It was beautiful, and it became a little retail store, so people could come in the front door, wander through the retail area, buy something, and then go back out on the patio and enjoy beer. It saved our bacon.
Rusty Nickel has had a little legal action going on right now, hasn't it?
Yeah, so we were part of a class action lawsuit with the governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo, over Western New York, Erie County, the county that we're in, was put into an orange zone in November. Orange zone means in our area that no more indoor dining. We were restricted to 4 people per table, so it was outdoor dining only. So really, that restricted most places to takeout. So that was really the big problem with that. We have the patio, but nobody can be in the indoor seating area. The lawsuit kept getting tabled and deferred. It was deferred to today, and we just found out before we got on the call with you that the class action suit that now has over 100 bars, restaurants, and breweries in it won. So we were triumphant. So it means that it goes back to the yellow zone, meaning you can have indoor dining, but only for the plaintiffs in the suit.
What I don't understand, and this is not a American-centric or a New York-centric, where I know Andrew Cuomo has been a little more active than many other governors, but the hospitality industry in general, and that's restaurants, bars, whatever, they've taken it on the chin.
They sure have.
The stats don't back up that the hospitality industry is a major spreader of this.
That's why we won. That's specifically the reason. Yeah, that's what the judge said.
If this was a straight across the board rule where every industry, every store, everything was on these rules, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. I mean, it would suck.
It would be hard to refute that, too.
Yeah, especially when the stats show that most people get infected at a gathering at somebody's home. Not necessarily family, but, somebody's having a freaking party and being stupid.
And what's funny about that is breweries were considered essential from the get-go.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure almost every state, if not every state.
Right.
And it's not just in the United States, it's actually in multiple countries, too.
Really. It's been an interesting year. I've told my kids, I'm like, pay attention to what's going on with all the craziness, with the politics, with the COVID, with all the stuff. Pay attention because this is unique and you've lived through it.
You got that right. Well, Dave, thanks for hanging out, and I can't wait till we can have Bloody Marys and beers out in the beer garden.
I'd love to have you come back and see what we've done. Like the week after you left, we got all new equipment. It looked completely different in a week.
Thanks for rubbing it in. I'll talk to you soon. Send my love to Cheryl and the kids.
Will do. Same on your end.
Bye-bye. If you'd like to learn more about the Rusty Nickel, or live in the Buffalo area and would like to order from them, then head over to their website. The link is in the video's description. And if you like this video or any of the others I've done, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.